Hello and welcome to Moderate Fantasy Violence, a podcast about pop culture and the world around it. I'm Nick.
And I'm Alistair.
And this fortnight we will be covering the new, strange, high-concept improv sitcom game show Murderville on Netflix, and then we will be continuing our vague attempt to catch some of them credible Oscar films by going back to Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog, also on Netflix, with Benedict Cumberbatch and Jesse Plemons in an intense western psychodrama. But before all of that, Alistair, what else have you consumed in the last fortnight?
So I've got another film to recommend to our listeners. It is another Oscar film, but it's one of the lower profile ones, but it is very, very good. And so I went to see Parallel Mothers, the new film from Pedro Almodovar, starring Penelope Cruz. Eagle-eyed listeners of the podcast, or eagle-eared listeners of the podcast, will remember that we covered Julieta by Pedro Almodovar back in 2016, in the early years of the podcast. He's been on a winning streak ever since then, and this is his latest film. It stars Penelope Cruz as a photographer who gets pregnant, and then when she's in the hospital giving birth, strikes up a friendship with a young mother who's, they're in the hospital sharing the room they go to before they go to the delivery room or whatever. And they sort of become friends, and it's kind of about how their lives get intertwined with various twists involving their children, which I shouldn't spoil. And yeah, it's got the classic, all the elements of Almodovar. It's bright, it's funny, there's some great jokes, but also it can sort of swerve into moments of being quite sad and poignant. Yeah, if you're a fan of his work, I can recommend this film.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that much of his films, but I do remember quite enjoying Julieta, as you say, back in the early days. So yeah, just to be honest, it's something I should probably watch. Was Penelope Cruz in that one as well?
I think she might have been. Hang on, do we have the cast to hand? No, she was not. It was Andrea Ugarte. But Penelope Cruz is a regular collaborator with Almodovar, including in, I think his most recent film that got a lot of buzz was Pain and Glory.
Yeah.
And she's in All About My Mother, his most famous one.
Another mother-themed film. Yeah,
so mothers are a major theme of his work. So yeah, it's definitely a thing he keeps coming back to. I mean, he's been consistently making films since the 80s. I mean, he's probably Spain's most famous film director. Yeah, he's been consistently putting out very highly respected films. He sort of started as a bit of a provocateur with films such as Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. No prizes for guessing what that's about.
Someone tying up their mother?
That one I think's got less mother stuff in
it.
But yeah, he's had a string of hits over the years. All About My Mother is a favourite of mine. But yeah, there's Woman on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, Talk to Her. He had a sort of big hit comedy a few years ago called I'm So Excited. It was about an airline. But yes, and he's been consistently making great films, and this is another excellent film. It's, again, I suppose it's been a sort of light-hearted comedy drama about young mothers. It does swerve into sort of darker moments. One of the main sort of subplots is the Penelope Cruz character is trying to get the site of a mass grave in the village she grew up in exhumed so the people can be properly buried. This is a sort of major thing in Spain. The country is kind of littered with huge mass graves from the Franco era when lots of people were summarily executed. But yeah, so he's kind of weaving in the sort of darker bits of Spanish history, bringing in the sort of the murder and the terror of the Franco years, and then linking it up, sort of packaging it with sort of more light-hearted material, I guess. So it's a real broad emotional tapestry.
Yeah, it does sound like a bit of a balancing act. But as you say, it sounds like he's been doing those for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult needle to thread, but yeah, he manages to do it. Never gets too sad before something silly happens. There isn't too much comedy that when the drama comes back in, or the sort of tragedy stuff, it feels like it's lessened its impact. So yeah, difficult balancing act, but still very good.
Well, yeah, I imagine he's a bit of a pro at this point. And yeah, I like the sound of this, actually. I've good memories of that Julieta film. Probably actually watched some of these.
Yeah, Penelope Cruz has got a Best Actress nomination at this year's Oscars for this film. She conceivably could win it. She's up against Kirsten Dunst from The Power of the Dog, which we'll discuss in a bit. But yeah, I think definitely a well-deserved nomination because, yeah, she's kind of the core of this film and is very good at it.
Has she won an Oscar before, or does it just feel like she should have done?
I don't know. Hang on.
It's time for podcast highlights, live Googling.
Live Google. Don't film me now, Google. Oscar win. Okay, awards nominations received by Penelope Cruz. Oh, she's got one Academy Award win.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, what is it? Tell me.
Oh, it sounds like, based on the summary at the top of the page, she had won it for Best Supporting Actress for Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Oh, yes, I remember now, that's a good film.
Also a decent film, yeah. Obviously, Woody Allen, asterisk, but yeah, no, I enjoyed that.
I did enjoy that film, yeah, and it was probably one of the last really good films that he did. But yeah, she's great in that film, and yeah, she's always good. It's a powerhouse team, Cruz and Anna Mavola. They work well together, and I'm glad they're still, carrying on. Anyway, that's what I've been up to recently. Nick, do you have anything to recommend to our listeners?
Yes. Although many of them may have already seen it, I, having got access to Apple TV to watch that Macbeth film a few episodes ago, decided to finally get with the programme and watch Ted Lasso. And I know I did a whole episode title a while ago about how I was experiencing life without Jason Sudeikis by having not seen Ted Lasso, but that is now bollocks. I have now seen most of the first season of Ted Lasso. For those of you who don't know, this is of course the lovable football sitcom about an American coach who is brought in to run a British football/soccer team. Obviously, he's an American football coach coming into a British football side, and this, of course, is being orchestrated by the woman who owns the club because she got it in the divorce from her incredibly unpleasant husband, and she's basically trying to stick it to him by bringing in a coach who will fail. But of course, as is often said when referring to Ted Lasso, Ted is the most sunny, uplifting, pleasant man in the world, and slowly wins everyone over with his ceaseless optimism. And yes, I've seen the show, and yes, okay, I see why we like this show. It's a very, well, because it's very likeable. It's a very intensely focused show on giving you a combination of nice, positive, uplifting emotions and some gentle comedy. I think there could possibly be more comedy, but I do laugh at the jokes, and I do feel the sad bits or the uplifting bits when they happen, and isn't that all we really want? Yeah, Jason Sudeikis is really working hard to make Ted as likeable as possible, and I guess he's reaping the rewards of it, because as a result the show works and everyone loves him. Fair enough.
Yeah, I've seen the first series of this show. Need to get into the second series at some point. Yeah, I really enjoyed it for the reasons Nick just said. The show it kind of most reminds me of is King of the Hill, in that it's got that sort of warm, positive feeling, and each episode ends on a kind of a very warm note, which gives you kind of good vibes from the show and kind of usually carries you on into the next episode.
Yeah, I haven't seen King of the Hill. If I was going to do a comparison, I'd probably go for the obvious one, which is Parks and Rec, which has a similar vibe in terms of its obvious massive admiration for its lead character, once you get past the rocky first season, as ever. I think Parks and Rec might be at least peak Parks and Rec. I think it trails off a bit at the end. Peak Parks and Rec might be a bit better than this, just because I think it has better jokes. Parks and Rec is a bit more willing to risk puncturing its sunny demeanour by being a bit spiky. Yes, the main character is an amazing, positive, uplifting, wonderful human being, but some of her colleagues are really not, and there's a running joke about how almost every single citizen of this town they're trying to help are just horrible, awful people. Yeah, I think at least once a season they have once every few episodes there's a scene in Parks and Rec where they have a forum for the citizens to come and share their views, and it's just the main characters sitting there stony faced while the randoms shout horrible things at them. It's quite baffling. But yeah, I don't think Ted Lasso has quite that level of humour to go with the upliftingness, but it is very uplifting.
Yeah, there's a broad cast of characters, and some of them are sort of nicer than others, but I guess the thing with the show is that whenever you meet a character who's sort of grumpy or a bit of a tosser, then it isn't long before the show does a kind of, they really have a heart of gold moment underneath all this tossery surface.
Well, yeah, everyone is portrayed as redeemable. I'll tiptoe around spoilers, but even the woman who runs the club, who, as I say, the basic premise from the beginning is that she's brought Ted Lasso in to sabotage the club, but I think it's episode 2 or 3 before it's, you're very much being encouraged to sympathise for her, and, it's starting to show that cracks might be forming in her commitment to her evil master plan. It doesn't really have any horrible characters or villains yet. Maybe we'll get there in season 2. That's sometimes when shows feel they should introduce a bit more darkness or peril. But yeah, so far we're very much in the there's good in everyone territory.
I guess the only sort of villain figure is Rebecca's ex-husband, played by Anthony Stewart Head, who usually plays absolutely nice characters, and this time he's playing an absolute bastard, so really strongly playing against type, which I like to see.
Yeah, no, he seems to be enjoying himself, because he's played a lot of lovable father figures in, obviously, the iteration of his career I know him for, which was, I guess, Buffy and Merlin. But to be fair, his character in Merlin wasn't quite as lovable as Giles. But still, yes, Anthony Stewart Head. I've only seen him in one episode so far. I'm sure he'll show up again, seeming to enjoy himself a great deal by playing a complete bastard.
Yeah, it's always good when you see people play against type. But yeah, this is a strong overall show. I do like the positive vibes. It does occasionally fall back on a sort of jokes about, British and Americans, they're so different. They call chips different things. But, some of those jokes land Some of them, I guess, maybe are a bit mainstream.
It's one of these things that just sort of pulls off just because Ted seems so amazed by the whole thing. I think the demeanour he sells it with does a lot for that, I think. Because this show's huge in America as well as Britain. Because I guess it's got this weird hybrid perspective of this very strong American character in this sort of British setting. And it is quite a romantic comedy British setting. You know, the shots of him walking through Richmond in the neighbourhood where he lives are a bit Love Actually. They're a bit sort of ideal Britain. But at the same time, it never quite comes across as patronising to the actual Brits watching it, which is impressive. It has the right level of cynicism in there.
Yeah.
The football player characters do seem to be written by some people who have actually researched or actually watched the Premier League.
Well, I think it's written by a British guy and Jason Sudeikis, isn't it? There was a British guy who's like the co-creator of it. There's recurring characters like this, as sort of the three men in the pub who are obviously like very much sort of like cynical British people who are just very rude about Ted. Some of the more British humour, I guess, and the kind of warm-hearted American humour. And that's a real pub, by the way. I've been to it in Richmond.
Well, yeah, and the breakout character, aside from Ted himself, if there is one, is Roy, played by, I think, Brett Goldstein, the sort of monosyllabic, angry footballer.
Yeah.
Who steals scenes by randomly shouting fuck. It's good stuff.
Yeah, he's very good. He's recently cameoed in Sesame Street, so he's definitely broken America.
Yeah, I don't actually know if he's British or American or know anything about him. If he's American, he's doing a decent British accent. I'm just assuming that all the Brit characters are played by actual Brits, but again, have done no research.
Overall, I think this is a show that I really like, and I like the kind of the positive, warm vibes. I think it goes to show, I don't know, where we are as a society. I read an interesting thing, was like when we've come from kind of The Office and kind of these quite dark, biting comedies through to now, we kind of got these sort of positive vibes, you know, from the sort of Parks and Rec through Good Place to this era. The sort of wholesome TV is back.
I have heard that listed as a trend, yeah. I'm not entirely looking forward to the wave of shows attempting to be the next Ted Lasso. I'm sure at least one or two of them will probably be alright, but I imagine a lot of them will be insufferable.
Yeah, I guess so. But there was a wave of everyone just trying to be as aggressively, provocatively unpleasant as possible in your kind of post-Office stroke Family Guy stroke South Park world. So I guess any trend gets done to death. That's the ultimate. Yeah, I don't know. That's the fate of all trends, is to descend into self-parody and crapness.
Probably true. Ted Lasso is quite good though.
Next up this episode, we will be discussing Murderville, a new crime comedy from Netflix. Will Arnett plays Detective Terry Seattle, a hard-bitten murder cop who in each episode is given a new celebrity partner. The celebrity hasn't read the script for the episode and must improv the way through the investigation, gathering clues. At the end, the guest then names one of three suspects as the killer and is told by the chief of police, Terry's ex-wife, whether they are right or wrong. The first series includes such guests as Conan O'Brien, Camille Namjani, and Sharon Stone. We've seen the complete first season on Netflix, so Nick, what did you think of it?
Well, I've described things as interesting failures on this podcast before, but we're really into the extremes of it here. As this has a premise I find weirdly fascinating, in that it's just a very strange thing to attempt, but also just craters almost completely in terms of the execution. I mean, yeah, that's basically the headline, I suppose. This isn't very good. It's very intermittent and dull and hard to watch. The comedy mostly falls kind of flat. There's a few good jokes in each episode, but I'm not joking when I say just a few. There's a couple scattered throughout. Will Arnett's committed to the bit, I suppose, and is kind of entertaining, but most of the celebrity guests don't nail the improv. I mean, we'll get into which specific episodes are best in a minute. But to be honest, the biggest problem I think is that it's sort of caught between being this strange improv sitcom and this sort of game/reality show. And I kind of feel it would have been better if they'd picked a lane and either just written a sitcom or just played fully into the game show part and just had the celebrity, you know, acknowledge that they're basically playing a game and talk to camera and stuff. But instead, they've got this weird conceit where even though the celebrity is obviously taking part in a game show, they play it dead straight and fully like diegetic. They just don't acknowledge that they're not just in a straight cop series or in the world. And it creates this really weird dynamic, and I don't think it fully works. Never mind.
Yeah, good use of the word diegetic.
I know, thank you.
That is the problem, is this show is trying to be like about 3 or 4 different things at once. Like, there are some scenes that are straight up sitcom bits when there's just the characters, not the celebrities on screen. It's clearly just like a scripted, like rehearsed comedy bit. And the thing is, like, none of the sort of bits work particularly well. So like the the kind of sitcom-y bits where about Terry Seattle, hard-bitten murder detective, just falls back on some very generic and overly done cop show spoof stuff. Again, the improv, it varies based on how good the particular person is at improv. The sort of, the game show bit is probably the most interesting part, is the game show aspect to it. I mean, there really is no other show like this that's doing that, at least that I'm aware of. And that's kind of where the tension comes from. But it is kind of weird how, like, literally at the end, it just becomes like a, like basically a game show, and they recap the clues like it was a treasure hunt. It's trying to do a lot of different things and not really succeeding in any of them.
Yeah, I mean, the game show bit's fine. They could have just made this as more of a game show. I'll just acknowledge that this is a celebrity doing that and have cutaways to talking heads, and as I say, that might have worked a bit better, but they haven't done that. They made the decision to film it like it's a dead straight sitcom most of the time, not have the celebrities make eye contact with the camera or anything. To be honest, the most fun to watch, for me at least, was probably Ken Jeong, who just breaks constantly and is clearly not trying that hard to disguise the fact that he's a guest playing a game rather than an actor in a TV show.
Yeah, so some of them, he corpses a lot, and so does Kumail. Doesn't manage to keep a straight face through most of it.
There's a bit in the Sharon Stone episode, which I'm quite entertained that they kept in, where Will Arnett and Sharon Stone are messing around with the corpse by just tweaking its nipples, and the guy playing the corpse is also corpsing whilst failing to play a corpse.
So yeah, well, we've got a corpse in corpse. That's quite funny.
So yeah, it's not without its moments. It's just that, but yeah, there aren't that many of them. I think I just listed most of them, to be honest.
Yeah, there's like a couple of like funny bits, and the weird thing is like the whole thing is kind of quite awkward because it's like, again, someone who doesn't really know what's going on trying to like stumble their way through this performance whilst keeping some semblance of their dignity intact. The weird thing is it's awkward, but not in a funny way, like not in a sort of Alan Partridge way. It's awkward in a kind of, I don't really want to be watching this sort of shambolic performance. I think the key to it is that awkward comedies, we mentioned The Office just now, like Partridge, is that they are the opposite of this. They are very, very tightly written and tightly calibrated to really hit that bit of, oh, that's awkward, but that's funny. When you try to aim for that without this level of planning, you just end up with embarrassing and uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a real qualitative difference between watching a well-written awkward comedy and experiencing actual awkwardness.
Yes.
Something I know from long, hard experience in my social life. So...
Yes, actually, yeah, that's perfectly summarise that. Each episode has a bit, like early on when they introduce a celebrity guest partner, when they just do straight up improv with Will Arnett in character, and it's basically just like, right, this is clearly just an improv scene. And some of those have got some funny bits in it when they're basically like, right, this is just people doing improv. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of improv as a comedy art form. I mean, there's like, don't get me wrong, there's some like amazing examples of it. You know, everyone loves I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, or there's a London-based Jane Austen improv group, Ostentatious, who are extremely funny. But I know mileage may vary with it. Some people think improv is like the greatest of all comedy because it relies purely on your innate funniness or quick thinking. You know, I guess anyone could be brilliant if they're given 10 years to write a comedy script. But I much prefer my comedy well-rehearsed and precisely executed.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any sweeping statements about improv being shit, but this is not the best advert for it.
No, I mean, I'm not saying it's shit. I'm just saying it's not quite to my taste. But the bits that weren't improv were just some very generic cop-on-the-edge jokes.
They were, but I'm easy, so I did laugh at a few of the bits with Terry Seattle in the opening sequences, which were, as you say, clearly the bits that had actually just been written rather than improv. The ludicrous bit with him falling for a multi-level marketing scheme in one of the episodes, possibly the Sharon Stone one.
Yeah, I think that was, yeah. I did like that, though, that sludge thing, like, it was always in the background after that. They kind of, always had sludge in the background, his weird product, so...
Yeah.
Reminding you of his past failures.
It's unfortunate they opened with that Conan O'Brien episode, because that was the worst one by far.
It was the weakest one, yeah. I'm not convinced of Conan O'Brien's ability to be incredibly funny off the bat, considering that he's obviously responsible for some of the best Simpsons episodes ever as a writer, and obviously is very funny on his own shows, but yeah, I guess not one of life's natural improvers.
No, it was not a big advert for Conan as an improviser, and I guess the problem was, because they'd included some low-level subplot stuff, it would be an exaggeration to say you have to watch these episodes in order, but there is a slight subplot running through them. They had to show it first, even though it's the worst one.
Yeah, I guess they didn't know how it was going to turn out till they did it. That's, I guess, the nature of improv. Yeah, I thought Marshall Lynch was actually quite funny. He's a football star who, I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of before because I don't know anything about American football. But he was very funny. He was good at thinking off the bat. I noticed, though, that he'd clearly come prepared with some jokes. You know, I'm doing a sitcom bit or an improv comedy bit. So he'd come clearly prepared with some funny things to say, which actually he landed quite well. Yeah, I thought he was actually surprisingly good, considering he's not even an actor.
Yeah, no, he came across well. I thought Sharon Stone was quite good. She wasn't really trying to be funny. She was kind of just being herself, but it worked. Possibly because it didn't come across as try-hard.
Yeah. The Annie Murphy one, although she was funny, the episode came across as really mean. Almost like they were trying to catch her out. That one seemed like more like the joke really was on her. That one actually left a bit of a quite unpleasant taste in the mouth for me. I don't know.
What, the bit where she has to wear a moustache and deliver stupid lines?
Yeah, and there was various bits when... I'm trying to put my finger on it now, but I just generally got the vibe from that one that, like, you're really trying hard to make this person who doesn't know what's about to happen look ridiculous. Like, almost like they're trying to prank her. And I know part of it is basically throwing unpredicted situations at people and see how they react. And I guess some people have the ability to roll with it more naturally than others. Like Kumar Nanjiani, he always seemed to deflect it into like an awkward place, but I guess he does kind of awkward funny quite well. So he managed to sort of land it by clearly making it into, this is really awkward, isn't it? But I don't know. It's hard to put on something specifically, but that episode, it did feel like they were just trying deliberately to humiliate her. But okay, maybe that's just the vibe I got from it.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't seem to... I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of it is her and how much of it is stage persona, obviously. You know, she's an actor. She may well have been acting. But yeah, she did seem to be very much doing a, I'm not really enjoying this is awful thing. Which, again, may well just have been how she decided to play it. I don't know. I don't know, but in a way, she was almost more invested in it than a lot of the others. Like, a lot of the others, to be honest, just sort of stared blankly at it. It was a bit sort of, okay. Except Ken Jeong, obviously, who just laughed at it.
Yeah. Some of them, I guess, tried to act seriously or, like, trying to, I don't know, be, like, a part of the show. And some people were just more like, they were on, like, a theme park ride that was quite funny.
Yeah. As I say, it's a strange show doing a strange format. I want to give them some credit for trying, but I can't not acknowledge the fact that they didn't succeed. I gather it's an adaptation of a British show called Murderville, which I've vaguely heard of, but never seen.
Yeah, same here. I noticed that at the end. Yeah, I've not seen it. But I think it is a bit different, because also I think that in that, the victims are also celebrities. But I think a lot of it is people doing celebrity impressions, is it that?
I gather so, yeah. It takes place in a world of celebrities played by actors, with the one real celebrity as the guest, and maybe that level of extra silliness makes it work better. I don't know. I've never really seen any strong perceptions of that show, so I don't really know if it was seen as doing well. It ran for 3 seasons, so someone must have watched it.
Yeah. Weirdly, I went to something that was, like, very similar to this, like just a week before we started watching this, which is in London, the local theatre called the Park Theatre is doing sort of an unrehearsed play as their annual fundraiser. It's a sort of Agatha Christie style whodunit, one they've written, you know, for this, and there's a kind of cast of characters, you know, who have all rehearsed and acted, and then each night of the performance they had a different guest celebrity playing the part of the detective, but they've not seen the script or rehearsed, and they just kind of fed their lines through an earpiece, and then they kind of act their way through the play, and every so often they're sort of thrown a curved ball to catch them out. And they've got a kind of huge range of celebrities doing it, like Mark Gatiss, Gillian Anderson, like Emma Thompson, Stephen Fry. The night we went to see it, we had Daisy Ridley from Star Wars, which was impressive. But interesting, when they were talking afterwards, they had a Q&A with Daisy and the producers and directors of the play. And one said it's interesting how different people respond to the whole situation, saying that like people who are more like presenters or dramatic actors tend to kind of just go with the direction that they receive and then go through it, whereas comedians tend to want to improvise and throw in extra jokes because they want to be funny. So, and I did notice that with this Murderville, that like some of the actors were like, I'm just going to see where this goes and I'll act off it, and some of them were like, no, I'm going to like act up to it and I'm going to try and throw in jokes or stuff or things that I've spotted, or try to like make this more of like a thing that I'm participating in rather than sort of experiencing. And it's been an odd week for the unrehearsed scripted performance, which is a rare thing to encounter twice in 1 week.
I assume the Daisy Ridley thing you saw was better than Murderville.
Yeah, it was much better.
Okay.
I think they're running for a month, so there might still be tickets. You'll get a different celebrity from us if you're in London and want to visit the Park Theatre. I don't get paid to plug that. It was very good.
You can just assume, listeners, unless we say otherwise, that we don't get paid to do any of this.
That is true. But also the thing with this unrehearsed whodunit was that the vibe was very much like gentle good humour. Like it's done, even though they were like, they threw in some curveballs to try and catch, you know, the celebrity, to catch Daisy off guard. Despite that it was kind of done with the whole sense of, this is a sort of a nice thing we're doing for charity, and it's all in kind of gentle good humour. Whereas I guess maybe it's because this is like slightly more kind of aggressive American comedy in like Murderville, but like almost more of a sense of like you've signed up to be humiliated on TV for doing this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know you mentioned the Annie Murphy episode, but basically all of them had to do a bit where they dressed up and had to say stupid things that Will Arnett told them to say, like, hello, my name is Harold Cocksucker or something.
Yeah.
That's
It's that level of humour.
The level of humour, yeah. And they all had to do that, that's very much what they're doing here.
It's equal opportunities humiliation. Yeah, I guess, I don't know, like, I was never a fan of, like, prank shows, like, the MTV Punk'd or whatever. Things
It's
like
true,
that.
the gotchas were not my favourite part of the old house party.
Yeah, exactly. And your tolerance for this may vary. I can imagine there's some people who, like, really think this is funny, but, like, I think part of it is this isn't really my style of humour, and also part of it is that it just generally doesn't work very well.
I don't think this is a particularly good example of what it is. I mean, my partner noped out of this after one episode, but I watched the whole thing, listeners, because I care about you, even though I probably could have messaged Alice there saying, actually, shall we do something else, and he might have thanked me for it, but I didn't.
Oh, we made it through, guys, so you don't have to.
You're welcome, listeners, and or sorry if you did watch it.
Finally, this episode, we will be reviewing The Power of the Dog, a new Western from director Jane Campion, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Kirsten Dunst, Jesse Plemons, Cody Smith-McPhee, and Thomasin McKenzie. Phil and George Burbank are cowboys and brothers in rural Montana in 1925. When George turns his back on being a cowboy to marry Rose Gordon and adopt her son Peter, Phil begins a campaign of terror against them that threatens to uncover many hidden secrets. We saw this Best Picture Oscar-nominated film recently. Nick, what did you think of it?
Yep, good film. I can see why this has got a lot of Oscar nominations because, yeah, it's very well made. Like, I think a lot of the impressive factors here are in the craft. It's very lovingly shot. All the actors have clearly got into the parts. There's a lot of deep characterisation here going on. Benedict Cumberbatch especially playing enjoyably against type here. Like, he often plays people who are kind of assholes, but not often in quite this way. He's normally more of a smug intellectual asshole rather than this sort of gruff, earthy asshole. And the way the film gets you to sympathise for him and drift away from maybe the obvious way his character might have gone is actually quite clever. Like, I gather it's based on a novel, this film, but if anything, it's quite theatrical. Like I would not have been surprised to discover it was based on a play. Because, yeah, it's very focused on these sort of long, lovingly shot conversations, and, yeah, it's a credit to Jane Campion that the film looks as good as it does, considering it's often not that visual, although there are some very nice, loving shots of the landscape. But, yeah, no, it's a very nice film. It's a very sort of slow, gentle experience in a lot of ways. As I often say, I do wonder if it could have lost a chunk of runtime without losing much, but it does build the characters up very artfully in that time.
Yeah, I guess it's very much like a mood piece as part of it. So there's kind of the slow, sustained nature really builds a real, sense of tension and the sort of the strong emotional feeling to the film.
Yeah, and the middle chunk does also feature, I think, speaking as we did earlier of good awkward writing, there's a nice sort of toe-curlingly awkward dinner scene about halfway through, which I greatly enjoyed.
Oh yeah, that was excruciating, but yeah, very, very good to see. And obviously, yeah, excruciating but bearable because you knew it was a fictional construct. Yeah, I think it's interesting that this film, that they've been selling it really on Jane Campion's great directorial feature. I guess she's been nominated for Best Director, and there's films nominated for Best Picture and Best Cinematography, and almost everyone in it has kind of got an Oscar nod in one category or another. So it's definitely like the front runner in the Oscar pack. And I think, yeah, deservedly so. It's very powerful. I saw it back in Christmas, because it was Guardian's top film of 2021. And it's really stayed with me very vividly since then. Like, it's one film that, like, it really gets under your skin and kind of it's sort of churning away thinking about it over the last few months. So yeah, it stays with you.
Yeah, I must admit I did no research because I'm a high-quality podcaster before watching this film. So, having been told it was a Western by, I think, possibly you and also the Netflix tagging system, I did go in perhaps expecting some shootouts or something, but no, there's really no shootouts. There's very little violence of any kind in this film. It's very much, I think as I said way back at the beginning of the episode, it's a psychodrama, it's a character piece.
Yeah, it's interesting though, also it's a Western, but it's set in 1925, whereas most Westerns are sort of set in the period after the Civil War. So yeah, it's very much the tail end of the Old West is what they're going at. And the theme is very much moving on, life changes, the world changes around you, which is, change is kind of the big theme of the Western as a genre. And what I like about it is the way they've explored change in this film is to not explore it the way a Western usually does. In the sort of iconographic uses of change in the Western is things like the coming of the railway, the growth of the town. Those things don't really feature in this film. It creates its own iconography. There's the coming of the road, and like the fact that, they're building a road through this land is a sort of sign of change. And also the constant background presence of motor cars is, again, how they're symbolising like it's a changing world.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the things with Benedict Cumberbatch's character, Phil, is he's meant to be a sort of the inevitable old world figure who's being slowly left behind.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of understandable source of his menace and his sort of dislike of the whole thing, and that he just wants to keep living his sort of cowboy rancher existence. But, his brother is moving on. He's bought into this restaurant business and farm. He's settling down. He's wearing suits now. He's putting on airs and graces. He's got married. It's another way that the whole world is changing, and Benedict Cumberbatch feels like left behind by this, which is why he has resentments. I mean, but I know that justifies the appalling way his character behaves, but the psychological level is mingling with like the sort of themes of the genre.
Yeah, and again, as I said earlier, it sort of has his journey go. Yeah, it doesn't open up his character really until like the back half, by which point you start to understand him a bit more, but he's been such a prick that the damage is kind of done, which is kind of sad and pushes it into semi-Shakespearean territory. Yeah, I've not seen Kirsten Dunst in many films lately, and she does a lot of good work with sad, awkward looks here, even if she doesn't get a huge amount to do in the final third when the focus switches very heavily onto the Cumberbatch.
Yeah, I haven't seen her, I don't think, anything since she was in that Sofia Coppola film about Marie Antoinette, but that might have been 15 years ago. I mean, she might have been in things that I've not seen, but also I know there's this issue of there aren't many good parts for middle-aged women. Once you get past sort of romantic lead,
then you kind of don't get cast until you're old enough to play people's mum.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It is one of the things, whereas for men, there's a much greater, a range of roles to play. That's why, I guess, men's careers are sustained. Once you get past sort of action movie, girlfriend, stroke, romantic comedy love interest or romantic drama love interest, there's nothing until the mum parts come in. But she's very good in this, and she's got an Oscar nomination as well. And yeah, I think she does a quite touching portrayal of sort of alcoholism. Seemed true to life and quite moving.
Yeah, her part is also, I guess, quite sad because she gets kind of caught up in this bullshit back and forth between the two brothers. There's a good scene where she's playing piano and Benedict Cumberbatch is attacking her with his banjo playing, which is very strange, but very good.
Yeah, I guess it's part of the psychodrama of the whole thing. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is brilliant at oozing menace in this film, and just like the sound that his boots make, whenever you hear like the sort of clunk, clunk, clunk of his like heavy cowboy boots on their pristine wooden floor of the nice house they bought, it just sends a shiver down your spine. You can just hear him like moving around the house in a sort of unpleasant huff, and that's threatened to explode into anger at any moment. It really ramps up the tension and does convey that sense of what it's like to live with like a sort of volatile, unpleasant person.
Yeah, and his sort of foreboding whistle he keeps doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
like I say, he plays a lot of these characters who are kind of... I mean, I would admit, I have not seen a lot of Cumberbatch performances outside of his well-known genre parts, the Sherlocks and Doctor Stranges of it all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if he's played many slightly more pointedly aggressive, shitty characters. Like, he's played a lot of uptight assholes who are kind of rude to people, but in a lovable underneath way. But, yeah, it's interesting here seeing him pushed out into just, although he's given a bit of sympathy and a bit of motivation, he's kind of just a prick.
Yeah, for a long time he basically played variants on Sherlock, or variants on his interpretation of Sherlock, which is basically very intelligent people who are like low on social skills and have no time for the idiots around them and are quite brisk and gruff. It was in that sort of bizarre vein of characters appeared for a while, like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, who are basically like, are these characters supposed to be autistic? Because this is a very offensive portrayal of what autistic people are like. But he was definitely a part of that, and it even extended to, in The Imitation Game, he played Alan Turing, and he played him that way, and I don't know if that's how Alan Turing was like as a person. I don't think it was. He also obviously played Dominic Cummings in that Brexit movie.
I did not watch the Brexit movie either. Not one of the Benedict Cumberbatch roles I feel bad about missing.
He plays Dominic Cummings, a man who's got a reputation for being rude and aggressive in the same way, in that he would just kind of call people idiots to their face, say I'm smarter than everyone, storm out a meeting by saying this meeting's boring, I'm doing something else now. I know, it was more of the kind of Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock show. For a while it seemed to touch everything. He dialed it a bit back for Doctor Strange because he's got to be a Marvel likeable star, but even that, it was in there. He was in The Imitation Game. But yeah, I like the fact that he's showing more range, and this is, you're absolutely right, this is like a different type of socially awkward arsehole that he's playing.
Well, yeah, as I say, the world is moving on without him. He can't put on arrogance and act like he's better than everybody, or at least because on some level I think he's aware that the way things are going, He doesn't feel able to go, I'm a million miles above you, because on some level knows that soon he probably won't be.
Yeah, which is an interesting inversion.
And yeah, this is all played out again in this sort of back and forth psychological duel between him and his brother, and his brother's wife sort of caught in the middle, and then, the wife's son, played by Cody Smith-McPhee, who, again, this film does have its sort of, I don't know if I want to say episodic, but it does seem to happen in chunks, and the Cody Smith-McPhee character, the son, disappears after a few appearances at the beginning, and only to come back and play a major role in, like, the final chunk.
Yeah.
He comes in and has this sort of very strange relationship with Benedict Cumberbatch, which relies on the fact that they've got this sort of mentor-protege relationship, but of course we know Benedict Cumberbatch is a prick, so may well will just be doing it to humiliate him, and it's this sort of is-he, isn't-he thing, which is quite cleverly done.
Yeah, it's very tense. You don't know if, like, is Benedict Cumberbatch actually seeking human connection? Is this some kind of long game that he's getting close to his brother's adopted son as a way of doing some kind of horrible revenge on, these people who he doesn't like? Or is there a sense of, like, he's searching for someone to pass on his tradition to? Like, there's a running thing about this cowboy who's from the high period of the Old West, the time that all the John Wayne movies are set. This older cowboy who taught Benedict Cumberbatch everything he knows, that's mentioned a lot, and obviously passed the tradition on to the Benedict Cumberbatch character. And is he looking to continue to pass it on? Is it actually a sort of mentor relationship? There's a lot of questions there, and it doesn't give you many clues, so there's a sense of tension. It's the classic, like, is this a genuinely nice moment, or is it about to explode into something really unpleasant at any second?
Well, yeah, you're just sort of waiting for the moment where, I don't know, the kid gets into trouble and Benedict Cumberbatch just goes, oh dear, I can't seem to help you for some reason, I'm off. And I guess I shouldn't spoil the film by saying whether it comes, but yeah, that's very much the nature of the tension. It's done very well.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, simmering tension throughout. I mean, I spoke to some people who've seen this film, and they were waiting for the kind of the big explosion. Like, there's films like Tyrannosaur, directed by Paddy Considine, which again has that simmering tension that at the end explodes into one really, like, angry, aggressive scene. And I spoke to someone who's basically like, this film was almost like it was building to that but never quite got there. But I felt actually it did something different and more interesting, which is that it sustained the tension and kept you on your edge to the end. But then the ending, I'm dancing around spoiling it for the people who haven't seen it, but the ending then took me by surprise. I think it would be too obvious if it just did a big, like, explosive ending, he says cryptically.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that was kind of hoping for some nice easy catharsis, but I think the ending they did worked, and I'm, again, tiptoeing. But yeah, I mean, I watched the whole thing in one go rather than splitting it over 2 nights, which is by itself heavy praise for me watching a podcast film.
I think this is definitely one for one go because it's so much a mood piece, so that's probably the ideal way to consume it. Although it's divided into chapters, isn't it?
Yeah, I think at some point, it keeps stopping and numbers come up on screen. I could quite easily have paused it on, I don't know, whatever the middle chapter is. I think it was 5 chapters in the end, maybe?
Yeah, they sort of vary in length as well.
But yeah, in the tradition of Zack Snyder's Justice League, it is divided into chapters.
Yeah. That's the precedent we're citing for this, okay.
That's the trail that was blazed. Also, It's based on a book, I suppose, which might also have something to do with it, but still.
But still, let's give Zack his due. I mean, of the Oscar films I've seen, it's hard to say which one at this point is the best, and I think I've seen 6 of the 10 nominees, and I'll try to get through all of them by the end. But, I mean, this one, I think, it's difficult to say at this point, but I think it's the strongest. It's very well executed, it's got great performances, it's really well made. I mean, I like Dune a lot. Dune is, like, a personal favourite of mine, and it would, like, make my century if Dune won it. I feel that, like, the underdog that I was really rooting for actually won was for Parasite, and I'm unlikely to get a repeat of me getting what I want.
No, this is, I think, a deserving winner of that. It would be... I would also like it if Dune won. I think they're clearly never going to give it to a superhero film. It would be interesting to see something like Dune win. I think it is... Well, I guess we talked at the time about it being a sort of the thinking man or the film snobs genre film, which I guess is a similar place to, like, Christopher Nolan films. And I forget whether he won an Oscar. I'm not sure he ever did win Best Picture for any of his efforts.
No, he didn't. I think the closest they got is Heath Ledger winning Best Actor posthumously for The Joker.
So I don't know if Dune has much chance. This does have the Oscar baitosity, but we'll see how it does.
I mean, I thought this film was much better than certainly Don't Look Up and Belfast, to throw out comparisons.
Yeah, and the other one I've both seen, I guess, is Licorice Pizza, which is so different, but it's quite hard to compare them.
It's a very difficult comparison to make. Again, like Licorice Pizza, I like the kind of coming-of-age story and things like that. These are the kind of the good ones. Like, Belfast was good, but not, like, amazing. This is definitely in the amazing category.
I agree. And that was Moderate Fantasy Violence. Thank you very much for listening as ever. If you've enjoyed this episode and want still more, then there are a couple of things you can do now. You can go to our website and listen to all our old episodes, read some articles, generally immerse yourself in the lore. And if you really, really enjoyed it, why don't go to your podcast app of choice, especially the Apple one, and leave us a nice 5-star review. Thank you.
You can also get more of us on Twitter, where we are at MFV Podcast, and you can get more of us on Facebook by searching for Moderate Fantasy Violence. If you want more from me, I'm on Twitter at Alistair J.R. Ball, and you can find more of my writing at redshaneblog.com.
And I've been Nick Bryant. You can find more from me at nickbryan.com on the internet, or on my Twitter at nickmb. The new comics Kickstarter might happen soon, we'll see. But the one thing you can guarantee is that in 2 weeks' time we'll be back with another Moderate Fantasy Violence global disaster pending, in which we'll be covering The Batman, the new film starring the Robert Pattinson, and the second season of Euphoria. So yep, it's a very dark, pretentious and important episode next time. See you then. Bye.
Bye.